February 19, 2026, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, former Prince Andrew, has been arrested. Police arrived at his residence in Norfolk early in the morning, executing a warrant tied to an investigation into misconduct in public office. The arrest came after months of renewed scrutiny following the release of additional material connected to the Epstein files. Officers questioned him on suspicion that, while serving in an official government role, he may have misused privileged access and shared confidential information with Jeffrey Epstein. He was taken into custody on his 66th birthday, an image that quickly spread across global media. A former prince, once surrounded by ceremonial guards and deference, now under police authority. The arrest did not involve direct SAID charges. Instead, it marked something just as historic. For the first time in modern British history, a senior royal figure was formally detained as part of a criminal investigation. Andrew has denied all wrongdoing. His legal team has stated that he will cooperate fully. Still, the moment itself stands as a turning point, the culmination of decades of controversy, scandal, and unanswered questions. To understand how Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor reached this day, the story must move backward, retracing the long road from privilege and protection to suspicion and arrest. In the final months of 2025, newly reviewed documents connected to the Epstein investigations began circulating among journalists and investigators. Some originated from U.S. court proceedings, others from internal reviews tied to Epstein's financial dealings and personal contacts. Andrew's name appeared repeatedly, not as a casual acquaintance, but as someone with expended access to Epstein during periods when Andrew held official responsibilities. British authorities began examining whether Andrew, while serving as the United Kingdom's special trade envoy between 2001 and 2011, had breached misconduct laws. The focus narrowed on whether sensitive information obtained through diplomatic or trade discussions may have been shared improperly with Epstein, a private citizen whose wealth and influence were already under suspicion. By early February 2026, investigators concluded there was sufficient cause to detain Andrew for questioning. The arrest followed quietly, without spectacle, but the symbolism was impossible to ignore. In the years following his 2022 civil settlement, Andrew lived largely out of sight. He no longer performed royal duties and did not represent the crown in any capacity. His military titles and honorary roles had been stripped. He remained physically close to the monarchy while being institutionally distant from it. Much of the public discussion during this period focused on his residence at Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park. Critics argued that allowing him to remain on royal property signaled a failure to fully confront his past. Supporters countered that he was entitled to privacy, having never been criminally convicted. Andrew made no effort to rehabilitate his image. There were no interviews, no public apologies, no acknowledgments of harm. This silence, while legally cautious, reinforced the sense that his story was unfinished. The most damaging legal moment before today's arrest came on February 15, 2022, when Andrew reached a settlement with Virginia Giuffre in the Supreme Court of the state of New York. Giuffre alleged that she had been trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and forced into said contact with Andrew when she was 17 years old. Andrew denied the allegations and agreed to the settlement without admitting liability. Reports at the time estimated the financial payment at approximately £12 million, with some funds believed to have come from Queen Elizabeth II's private estate. Though the settlement ended the civil case, it solidified public belief that Andrew could no longer be shielded by royal status. Within weeks, Buckingham Palace announced that he would relinquish all remaining military titles and royal patronages. He would no longer use the style His Royal Highness in any official capacity. It was a quiet but definitive institutional rejection. Andrew's attempt to publicly explain himself came in November 2019 during an interview with BBC Newsnight. Intended as damage control, the interview instead became a masterclass in how not to address allegations of serious wrongdoing. Andrew denied ever meeting Virginia Giuffre, despite photographic evidence showing the two together in London in 2001 alongside Ghislaine Maxwell. He claimed to have no recollection of the encounter and offered explanations that many viewers found implausible. One moment stood out above all others. Andrew stated that he could not have been sweating at the time of the alleged assault due to a medical condition caused by an adrenaline surge during the Falklands War. Medical professionals publicly questioned the claim. The interview was widely criticized as lacking empathy, accountability, and credibility. Public reaction was swift and unforgiving. Within days, Andrew announced he was stepping back from public duties indefinitely. In practice, that decision became permanent. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in July 2019 on federal charges related to trafficking minors for SAID. The arrest brought global attention to Epstein's network of powerful associates. His private jets, luxury residences, and social connections were examined in minute detail. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell at a federal detention center in New York and later declared to have annulled himself. His annulling triggered widespread anger among victims and intensified calls for accountability from those who had associated with him. Andrew's name surfaced repeatedly in this renewed scrutiny. His relationship with Epstein, which he had previously characterized as brief and inconsequential, now appeared prolonged and unusually close. Andrew first met Epstein in the late 1990s through Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein cultivated elite connections, and Andrew's royal status offered prestige and access. Photographs and witness accounts placed Andrew at Epstein's properties in New York and London, even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for procuring a minor for SAID. In December 2010, Andrew was photographed walking with Epstein in Central Park. The image was devastating. Critics asked why a senior British royal would publicly associate with a convicted SAID offender. Andrew later claimed the visit was meant to formally end the friendship. The explanation failed to convince many, particularly given Epstein's continued proximity to Andrew in subsequent years. Between 2020 and 2021, U.S. authorities, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, publicly stated their interest in interviewing Andrew as part of ongoing Epstein-related investigations. Andrew's legal team claimed he was willing to cooperate, yet no interview took place. In the United States, the civil case moved forward. Andrew's attempts to dismiss the lawsuit were rejected by the judge, paving the way for a trial that ultimately never occurred due to the settlement. The lack of full cooperation became another mark against him in the court of public opinion. Long before Epstein entered public awareness, Andrew had developed a reputation for controversy. As the United Kingdom's special trade envoy from 2001 to 2011, Andrew was criticized for cultivating relationships with authoritarian figures and wealthy businessmen under the guise of promoting British trade. He was accused of accepting lavish hospitality, including luxury travel and accommodations that blurred ethical lines. In 2011, his role as trade envoy ended amid backlash over his friendship with Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, son of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. The association drew outrage during the Arab Spring, when the Gaddafi regime was accused of violent crackdowns on civilians. Andrew was also linked to Kazakhstan's former president Nursultan Nazarbayev after a controversial property deal in which a Kazakh businessman purchased Andrew's Surrey mansion at an inflated price. While no laws were broken, critics argued the transaction raised serious ethical questions. Tabloid reports over decades painted Andrew as entitled and dismissive of criticism. Stories ranged from staff mistreatment allegations to claims of exploiting royal privilege for personal comfort. While many of these accounts were dismissed as gossip, together they formed a pattern that shaped public perception. The British monarchy's response evolved over time. Initially cautious and defensive, the palace eventually shifted toward separation. By 2022, Andrew was no longer a working royal in any sense. Queen Elizabeth II supported the decision to strip Andrew of his remaining roles shortly before her unaliving later that year. Her successor, King Charles III, made clear that Andrew would have no future public role. The monarchy's priority became institutional survival. Polling suggested that younger generations viewed Andrew's continued presence as incompatible with claims of accountability and modernization. Andrew was born on February 19, 1960, at Buckingham Palace, the second son of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. For years, he was widely regarded as the Queen's favorite. He was confident, charismatic, and comfortable in the spotlight. He served in the Royal Navy and gained public admiration for his role as a helicopter pilot during the Falklands War in 1982. At the time, he was praised for bravery and duty. In 1986, he married Sarah Ferguson. The marriage initially captivated the public, but collapsed under media pressure and personal scandal. They divorced in 1996 but remained close, an unconventional arrangement that itself drew scrutiny. By the late 1990s, Andrew's role within the monarchy was less defined. It was during this period that his association with Epstein began. Today's arrest represents the most serious challenge Andrew has ever faced. It is not a verdict, and it does not resolve the questions that have followed him for decades. But it does confirm something many believed would never happen, that royal status no longer guarantees immunity from investigation. Whether charges follow remains to be seen. What is already clear is that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's story is no longer one of faded scandal alone. It is now part of an active legal process. Told backward, his life reads as a slow erosion of trust, where privilege delayed consequences but could not prevent them. From helicopter pilot to trade envoy, from royal favorite to public pariah, and now to detainee under suspicion of misconduct, his trajectory reflects a broader shift in how power is viewed and challenged. There may be courtrooms ahead. There may be exoneration or further fallout. But as of today, February 19, 2026, the narrative has crossed a line that cannot be undone. The story that began with silence, denial, and protection has arrived at accountability's doorstep. And for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, the past has finally caught up. Thank you for watching. This is a complex and emotionally charged case, and we appreciate you taking the time to see it through. What are your thoughts on the arrest and the allegations surrounding Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor? Do you believe accountability has finally arrived, or are there still unanswered questions? Let us know in the comments. If you found this report informative, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss future updates.